Investor Connect podcast program. This is Hall T. Martin. I'm the host of the show, in which we interview angel investors, venture capital, private equity, family offices, and many other investor groups for startups and growth companies. I hope you enjoy this episode. Thank you for joining us. Well, hello, this is Hall Martin with Investor Connect. Today we're here with Nikolai Oreshkin. Nikolai, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Hal. It's a pleasure to be here.
So what was your background before starting to invest in the early stage?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Belarus. I started my company pretty early. It was it's actually the first private internet service provider in Belarus. And my company was acquired in 2011. And later I moved to Silicon Valley and started getting into venture capital. So for the last 6 years, I've been dedicated primarily to the venture capital investment and blockchain investment.
So what's your advice for people that are starting to invest in blockchain startups? What would you tell them is the number one thing they should know?
So, well, I think they need to know the fundamental problems of the blockchain. And I think it's very important to keep track on the market and the market trends. I think this is very important because in blockchain, everything is changing so fast, and it's pretty much crypto works 24/7. So I would say to keep track on what everything happens on the market is very important.
So how do you see the industry evolving? Where is it going in the next 6 months? Because to your point, it is moving very quick.
Yeah, well, it's a great question. I think that indeed it's evolving very fast. And, if let's say a year ago when the trend of the ICO came in, it was enough just to launch a website with a timer and people were sending ETH and Bitcoins to the startup fundraising campaign. Later on, some of the ICO projects understood that is not enough and you need to get on board a strong team. And they started inviting advisors, and the best advisors happened to be someone who were early on in the space, in the cryptocurrency space. So the advisors received free tokens instead of paying for that. And later on, it's also start not work well because you see that a lot of companies having the same advisors, and the question is whether these advisors are really helpful. So I would say that the circle of the fundraising campaign is pretty much over, and it's got into back to VC. So in order for a startup to be hot and attractive for the general crowd, they need to get on board professional investors, and it's coming back to traditional venture capital space and professional investors who can be the validators that the company really do well.
So what is your investment thesis for the blockchain sector? What do you look for?
In blockchain, we look at infrastructure companies that disrupting and help to the blockchain infrastructure to grow and bring it to the next level. So the fundamental problems of the blockchain itself, it's remain to be the same. So we have the same security problems, scalability problems, and interoperability. So the hottest deal, if you will take a look for the last 6 to 12 months, were in the space of the infrastructure. It's very easy to determine those. They were raised much larger amount of capital than other projects. You can take a look on, let's say, EOS, Hashgraph, Zilliqa, Telegram, and so on. So it is, I think, interesting how the market is evolving because all of them are still resolving the problems of processing transaction faster at a lower cost.
So you mentioned EOS, they're a well-funded startup, over $1 billion, and their first platform is now coming onto the market. How well do you think it's going to do out there in this initial phase?
Well, everyone, I think among the professional investors, everyone understands that it is a bubble. But it's growing bubble. And if you compare it with other industries, even with venture capital or traditional stock market, it's also bubbles. But in that case, it's very important to see that something new happening in the industry and the innovation is coming to the blockchain space. So that is very important.
Well, last year we talked about the challenges in this space being around things like scalability. How much can you improve on the scalability of blockchain systems? And Of course, they've made great strides there. What are the other challenges you see coming up for investors in this space that they should be looking for?
Yeah, so other fundamental problem is security. Security problem and very important that actually originally blockchain aimed to be resolved.
And so what do you see as the risks in this space as far as an investor goes? What should they look for that you think is a big red flag for a blockchain company?
I think the time of the apps is not there yet. So unless we can resolve the fundamental problems of scalability and interoperability, that actually prevent of new practical implementation to appear on the market.
Okay. And do you see any immediate opportunities you think you'd like to pursue? I see a lot of opportunities with exchanges and coins that talk at the infrastructure level, but where do you see the opportunities for investment?
Yeah. So the opportunity, I think, is still in the same zone. So someone who can really improve the infrastructure of the blockchain, it's something that can really benefit to the entire ecosystem. That is probably the hottest challenges that needs to be addressed.
So in the last few minutes that we have here in this interview, what else should we cover?
I think this is, thank you very much for the interview and for the session. I would recommend to the listeners and to startup founders to keep their eye open on the challenges that still exist in the blockchain space. And I believe that there are a lot of capital that would like to be.
Very good. And so how best for the listeners to get back in touch with you?
They can email me to Nikolai@elysium.vc.
Okay. We'll put that in the show notes and make that available as well. Appreciate your taking time to talk today and hope to have you back for a follow-on very soon.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you for the call.
Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org. Paul T. Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early-stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions.